My name is Theodore Johnson. I'm more of an impatient person, and I like to eat my food quickly. I enjoyed burgers and sandwiches, which I can just stuff in. I've always been a fan of BLT. That day happened to be a day off for the surgical clinic I run. I'd spent the late morning at my favorite spot, a diner near the station known for its chicken dishes. I had a drink and got into a good mood. For a finishing touch, I had a chicken and egg sandwich that served as both my breakfast and lunch. My clinic is located in a regional city with a population of just under 100,000. Near the station, there is a decent amount of commercial facilities. In the middle of the shopping street extending from the station, there's the diner, and a few doors down, my clinic. If you go through the shopping street, residential areas flank both sides, and straight ahead leads to a low-lying mountain dotted with farms. My family home is also located on that mountain and used to produce specialty summer oranges. My parents are both gone. They passed away in their late 80s, so they must have had a fulfilled life. Now that I'm approaching 60, I live alone in the house my parents left behind. I was once married. However, we parted ways after 7 years of marriage. It was a common issue of personality clashes. Ever since, I thought living alone and doing as I like suited me better than married life. Anyway, that day, shortly after I started up the mountain slope where my house was located, feeling good after having had a few drinks and a full belly, I heard a young woman scream. Looking up the slope, I saw summer oranges rolling down. I picked up one with my left hand, stopped the next one with my right foot, and another with my left foot. The fourth one rolled between my legs. For the fifth one, I reflexively tossed the grilled chicken I had brought back for my evening drink and caught it with my right hand. I went up the slope holding those oranges to where the young woman was. Upon reaching her, she turned out to be a girl in her early 20s with short hair and an innocent look on her face. "Ouch, I think I might have sprained my ankle," she said. She was wearing sporty white leggings and was sitting down, rubbing her ankle. "Here, let me see," I said, handing her the oranges I was holding and placing my hand on her ankle. "Ouch there," she exclaimed. It was a mild sprain for sure. Still, I couldn't just leave her there, so I gave her a shoulder to lean on and walked her down the slope, taking her to my clinic. I put a patch on her, tightly wrapped her ankle in a bandage, and gave her some first aid. "Come back tomorrow. I'll examine you properly then," I said. It was my day off, and I had a few drinks in me. I'm sure it wasn't anything serious, but I told the girl to come back tomorrow. "It's all my mom's fault," she said. "When you're talking to others, call her mother, not my mom." "Oh, yes, sir," she replied, sticking out her tongue cheekily. That day, she'd been sent by her mom to the unmanned fruit stand at the top of the hill to buy some summer oranges. As she was coming down the hill with the oranges in a paper bag, the handle of the bag suddenly broke, and the oranges rolled out. It's my mom. I mean, my mom keeps reusing department store bags because she wants to be eco-friendly. The handle must have been about to break off. Her mom must have been quite frugal. "I almost dropped my smartphone too," she added. "Were you walking while messing with your smartphone?" I asked. "Yeah," she said. I scolded her, telling her that was far worse. Staring down at a smartphone for long periods can strain your neck and lead to stiff shoulders and headaches. That's a condition called text neck. It's dangerous, so stop using your smartphone while walking. As I told her, she gave me another drawn-out "yes, sir" in reply. Her house seemed to be just ahead in the residential area, within walking distance from my clinic. But I felt sorry for her having to walk on that foot, so I suggested she take a taxi. "You should get there within base fare. Do you have money for that?" I asked. "I'm fine. I have it," she replied. Nodding, I gave her a crutch as I walked her to the clinic entrance. She kept turning back to smile brightly at me. As I was about to go back inside, I noticed the part-time job notice I had taped to the entrance door was starting to peel off. It had been up for over a month now. As I fixed the notice, I wondered if I should use online shop postings. Just as I was thinking about this, I found she had left behind her oranges. I'll give them to her tomorrow, I thought. The next day, a woman came to the clinic with a department store paper bag. She had the same face as the girl from yesterday. I thought they might be sisters. Even so, you were so kind to help my daughter yesterday when she was in trouble. It was her mother. She bowed her head and handed the paper bag to me again. I caught a glimpse of what was inside. A bottle of imported whiskey. Pretty pricey stuff. "Doctor, please take this," the girl pleaded, clasping her hands in front of her face as if in prayer. I thought this is going just as planned. Then, clearing my throat, I feinted annoyance as I accepted the paper bag containing a bottle of whiskey. Whiskey. It's been a while. One more thing to look forward to tonight. The mother, even as I was about to start examining, remained rooted to the spot. I told her to wait in the waiting room. This isn't kindergarten. You don't need to babysit. Yes, you're right. I am in the way, aren't I? Her acknowledgement that she was in the way gave me pause, but I handed her the forgotten orange, and she took it to the waiting room. The x-rays confirmed that there was nothing wrong with the girl's leg. It would surely be fully healed in 2 or 3 days. Within 10 minutes of the treatment ending, the mother and daughter returned. "Doctor, we wanted to talk to you about the part-time job notice you posted out front." The mother, her demeanor now entirely different, spoke briskly, her eyes shining as she looked at me. "Would you be able to do it?" As I spoke, I couldn't help staring at the mother's face, still convinced they must be sisters. "No, my daughter." "Would she be suitable for the job? Or this one here beside her?" "Mother," the girl stuck out her tongue and gave a little bow. "Listen, if that's the case, you should speak for yourself. You're not a child anymore," I scolded the girl, warning the mother not to spoil her too much. That said, I did need a part-time worker. It's reception work, but it's not that difficult once you get used to it. So I decided to hire the girl. The girl, whom I'll call Emma, began her part-time receptionist job 3 times a week. Once her foot healed, she was usually quite dependent on her mother when they were together. But when alone, she showed a responsible side and quickly learned the job. Moreover, her vibrant and cheerful smile was well received by both the staff and the patients. However, this also brought some trouble for me. "Doctor, let's walk together." Emma would always wait for my work to finish, and as soon as I left the clinic, she would dart over, cross her arm with mine, and then, resting her head on my shoulder, she would start skipping along. "That's enough. Stop that. Why, you're too young to be so familiar with men." "Doctor, you're just being shy." I was at a loss. I had taken in quite a naughty girl. A month or so had passed since Emma started her part-time job at my place when one day my daughter, always grateful for your help, Emma's mother Mary, visited the clinic with a smile as radiant as Emma's. Then she offered a box of sweets, saying, "This is for all of you." I thanked her and accepted it. Then she handed me a paper bag from a department store, saying, "And this is for you." "Doctor," Mary looked down shyly. Somehow, her behavior made my heart skip a beat. This is not a gift from a patient, so it should be okay, right? Oh well, thank you. When I looked into the bag, there was a bottle of high-end whiskey. "Doctor, you do like your drink, don't you?" "I'm not averse to it, but the last time I brought you one, you looked somewhat grim, yet the corners of your lips were raised. You looked quite pleased." Mary stuck out her tongue playfully. Even her gesture resembled her daughter Emma. On my next day off, I had lunch at my usual diner, and for my final meal, I ordered my favorite grilled chicken. Oh, wait a second. I hastily withdrew my order. "I'm not in the mood for chicken today," I told the owner of the diner. "So, how about fried rice?" No, that's not it either. I've decided on risotto." On my way home, As I began to climb up the hill, a summer orange came rolling down from above. I picked it up and looked up the hill. Emma was there, smiling mischievously. Emma waved her hand and started running down the hill towards me. "Don't fall. Be careful." When she got to where I was, she stopped, placed her hands on her knees, and caught her breath. There was a faint sweet scent coming from her. "Doctor, had you been drinking?" I nodded. "What did you eat?" "Well, some side dishes, and for the last dish, risotto." Emma asked what I would do for dinner. I told her I hadn't decided yet. "In that case, come over to my place. Let's eat together." Without waiting for my response, Emma took out her phone and called her mother. "Mary, it's settled. Doctor, my mom also wants to treat you to dinner." Call her mother, not my mom. There was still some time left until dinner. I decided to part ways with Emma and headed home. We agreed to meet in front of the clinic at 5:00 p.m. When I arrived at the clinic at 5:00, Emma was already there, passing the time on her smartphone, waiting for me. "You should limit your time on that smartphone." Emma shrugged and stuck her tongue out at me cheekily. As we began walking towards her house, she, as usual, slid her arm through mine. I had given up on any futile resistance. "Is your father around?" She replied plainly that she doesn't have a father. "My mom, she's a single mother, so my father was never in the picture." I regretted asking, sensing I might have asked something I shouldn't have. "My mother works the cash register at a large supermarket across the train station," Emma continued, her chest swelling with pride. She boasted about how her mother, Mary, was faster and more accurate at the register than any other employee. Not only that, she treated every product with the utmost care. There was no doubt that for Emma, Mary was a mother to be proud of. The place where Emma and Mary lived was an old 2-bedroom apartment that had seen many years pass by. "I hope it's okay to drop by so suddenly tonight," I began. "Oh no, it's our pleasure. After all, it was Emma who insisted on bringing you over, wasn't it?" As Mary and I exchanged greetings at the entrance, Emma pushed me from behind into the house. On the modest-sized dining table, there was an array of dishes that Mary had apparently prepared for dinner: beef and potato stew, Cobb salad, ribeye steak, and grilled salmon. The food was simple, but it had that classic, comforting taste of home. As Emma guided me to my seat at the table, Mary brought out a can of beer from the refrigerator. "Oh dear, it's still lukewarm, isn't it?" Emma jumped in. "That's what I told you to pick up from the convenience store on the way here." "But buying it from the supermarket where I work is cheaper since I get a staff discount," Mary replied. Soon enough, a playful argument broke out between mother and daughter. For some reason, I ended up playing the mediator. All right, let's settle down. Whether it's cold or lukewarm, beer is still beer. It's perfectly fine." And so, Emma, Mary, and I shared a meal around the dining table. "I don't think we've ever had dinner with a man at home like this, have we?" Mary said, amused. "But dear, we've had dinner with Tom before, remember?" Mary reminded her. "That was when we were kids. He was just a boy, not a man," Emma replied, then turned to me and explained that Tom was just an old childhood friend from kindergarten. "Excuse me, I need to use the restroom," Emma said. "You don't need to announce that." Mary reprimanded her hastily and then turned to me, bowing her head. Emma stuck her tongue out at me before scampering off to the restroom. Mary took a sip of her beer, which she claimed she rarely drank, her cheeks turning a shade of pink. "You know, the day you helped Emma when she twisted her ankle and you scolded her, she told me all about it." "I'm sorry about that." "No, it's okay." She seemed quite happy about it. "Happy about being scolded by me?" "Yes." Mary spoke to me. She's been raising her daughter, Emma, as a single mother, working hard to prevent anyone from blaming her lack of a father. She said Emma turned out to be such a good, obedient girl. But still, as a mother, I feel like I can't scold her properly. At that moment, Emma returned from the bathroom. With a carefree air, she hugged me from behind. "Hey, did you wash your hands properly?" At 10:30 in the evening, I left, seen off by Mary and Emma. As I was climbing up the hill towards my house, I started to think. Usually, on my days off, I only thought about going to bed early to prepare for the next day. But that night, the one I spent with Mary and Emma, it felt like a waste to just go to bed. Maybe I should take a walk around before heading home. So I changed direction and strolled around the night streets, gazing at the blue moon. I thought about how I had once failed at marriage and thought I'd stay single for life. That was me. The next day, on my way home from work, I went to the supermarket where Mary works, which is located on the other side of the station. I found Mary working briskly and was drawn to her chic outline. Just as Emma bragged, Mary was a fast worker. Her energetic smile never faded, yet her eyes were serious. I felt like I could watch her forever. "Oh, doctor, I rarely come to the supermarket," I said. Once Mary made sure there were no customers behind me, she placed a "Please use the next register" sign on her counter. From then on the days when Emma had a day off from her part-time job, I would stop by Mary's supermarket after work. Mary adjusted her shift to match the time I showed up and came to meet me at the coffee shop next to the supermarket. Half a year later, Emma said to me and Mary, who were posing in front of the camera, "You two seem a bit tense, don't you?" It was at a photo studio in town. We didn't have a wedding ceremony. Instead, we decided to take a commemorative photo, our wedding photo. With the cameraman's cue, the flash went off. The photographer suggested another shot. "Hey, Emma, you should join us. Let's take a picture with the three of us." Emma nodded energetically with a smile and stepped between me and Mary. We all looked at each other, our smiles naturally breaking out. "All right, here goes." Upon the photographer's cue, we all turned our faces towards the camera at once. Our first family photo. It must have turned out beautifully. How did you like it? Your subscription to the channel encourages us to keep producing. See you in the next video.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me and began to speak. "There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only." Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. "I'm leaving." After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, is something wrong?" Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.